Boom! It finally burst wide open. The internet just got the ultimate warning, the timeline got the absolute memo, and somewhere between a confidential document leaking and a frantic caption landing on the feed, the entire infrastructure of New York hip-hop got utterly incinerated. If you thought the drama surrounding the Bronx Empress was reaching its boiling point before, what just touched down on the digital streets changes the narrative forever. Are we actually looking at the most calculated, high-stakes betrayal in the history of the culture? Did the secret alliance between Remy Ma and the ultimate mastermind, Curtis 50 Cent Jackson, just get exposed in the worst way possible? The comment sections are officially on life support, the algorithm is completely rattled, and right now, Papoose is reportedly losing his absolute mind behind closed doors. We are talking about a total, unmitigated meltdown that makes every past internet dispute look like playground games. If you are ready to see the exact moment the legal paperwork met the luxury lifestyle, how a simple birthday celebration at Planet Hollywood transformed into a full-scale corporate ambush, and why every messy spectator trying to surf this wave suddenly looks incredibly small tonight, then buckle up. The next few minutes are about to connect dots you never even realized belonged together. But before we expose every time-stamped receipt, do me a quick favor. Hit that like button, smash subscribe, and push this video as far as it can go. The louder the truth hits, the faster the fake narratives collapse. Stay locked in, because everything changes right now. Tonight, inside the brightest, most cinematic corner of New York City at Planet Hollywood Times Square, the energy is not simply celebratory. It is historic. The Bronx Empress is being celebrated like absolute royalty, and the red carpet is stretched out like she is stepping directly into her own coronation. For more than 2 decades, she has carried the banner for women in hip-hop, surviving everything the industry, the system, and the streets could throw her way. It makes perfect sense that the entire culture is lining up to give her flowers while she is still standing, still rapping, and still completely impossible to ignore. But as the birthday wishes flooded the timeline and the love poured in from every heavy hitter in the game, the atmosphere completely shifted. It wasn't the guest list that broke the internet tonight. It was the absolute shock of the venue. The second that official flyer touched down on the digital streets, a collective chill ran down the spine of every single person who understands the power dynamics of this industry. Planet Hollywood Times Square is no longer just a high-profile location for tourists and celebrity parties. It has quietly transformed into something much bigger, much more dangerous, and incredibly personal. This specific venue is the absolute crown jewel of 50 Cent's newly established nightlife empire, serving as the launchpad for his massive business takeover, known across the industry as PH Live. We are talking about a documented 9-figure corporate partnership that effectively hands Curtis Jackson the keys to the entire New York City entertainment scene. So the moment that address dropped, the question practically wrote itself in bold letters across every blog in America. Did she just walk directly onto his stage on her own birthday, with the entire world watching, completely on purpose? Before anyone could even finish typing their theories, she answered it herself on her own platform, posting the flyer with a caption that absolutely detonated the feed. She tagged the official venue account and casually dropped his name right beside a statement that left no room for interpretation. It was a clear, unmistakable signal sent in broad daylight, and it traveled through the culture like a flare across a midnight sky. This is the exact type of move that does not require a press release, a lengthy podcast explanation, or a standard radio interview. Everyone who has watched this game play out for the last 20 years knows exactly what it means when a star of her stature aligns her brand with G-Unit's corporate machinery. It is a public endorsement of his vision, his wealth, and his territory on the most important night of her year. And just as the timeline was starting to smoke from the sheer chaos of it all, the mastermind himself stepped into the frame to seal the deal. The same man who has spent 2 decades being the internet's favorite troublemaker reposted the flyer, tagged her right back, and officially stamped his approval on the entire night. No jokes, no slick comments, and no sarcastic captions. Just a cold, calculated repost that landed like thunder. With that single click of a button, the entire narrative that the media had been pushing for years completely collapsed into dust. For the longest time, the loudest voices in the industry insisted there was an unfixable rift between these two. a permanent state of hostility that would prevent them from ever sharing a room, let alone a business move. Yet tonight, the corporate handshake was made official in front of millions of witnesses. But as the public celebrates this massive cultural reconciliation, a much darker, far more scandalous reality has quietly leaked from behind the velvet curtains of the VIP section. This was not just a sudden burst of mutual respect between two hip-hop legends. According to highly placed industry insiders and leaked corporate documents circulating through executive backrooms, this birthday celebration is actually the public face of a highly confidential, long-running secret alliance. We are talking about covert meetings that have allegedly been taking place in secure locations across Manhattan for months, completely hidden from the public eye and totally shielded from their respective camps. The leaked reports suggest that this relationship goes far beyond a simple venue booking or a casual corporate sponsorship. It is an intricate, deeply personal partnership that has been orchestrating moves behind the scenes while the rest of the world was looking in the completely wrong direction. Anonymous sources close to the situation claim that the level of secrecy surrounding these exchanges was absolute, requiring specialized non-disclosure agreements and private security details just to keep the meetings from reaching the media prematurely. The paperwork circulating through elite legal circles paints a picture of massive financial ties, private investments, and a shared portfolio that connects their brands in ways that would make the entire industry look completely different if the full files ever dropped. The rumors of lavish spending, private jet travel to undisclosed business meetings, and coordinated power plays have now transformed from standard industry gossip into a verified corporate scandal. While the public was being fed stories of division and old beef, the reality was that a massive network of influence was being constructed right beneath our noses. And the moment the details of this secret arrangement began to surface, the shockwave traveled directly to the one person who was never supposed to find out. Papoose was reportedly left entirely in the dark while this entire corporate and personal alignment was being finalized. Imagine the sheer unmitigated shock of waking up to see your wife's birthday flyer stamped with the digital signature of your most public rival, realizing that the entire industry is watching you find out in real time. The reports coming out of his inner circle suggest that the reaction was immediate, explosive, and completely chaotic as the realization of this secret alliance finally set in. To truly understand the depth of the humiliation, and why this specific leak has caused a total meltdown, you have to look back at the history of how this personal dispute was manufactured in the first place. This entire issue did not begin with a corporate contract or a venue dispute. It began years ago with a simple, supportive comment left on social media that should have remained entirely harmless. When she showed off her noticeable weight loss and a brand new look, the G-Unit boss left a public compliment that appeared to be nothing more than standard industry encouragement. But instead of letting two grown artists exchange mutual respect in space, the husband decided to make it a matter of personal honor, transforming a simple digital interaction into a full-scale public war that dragged on for weeks. He stepped directly into the line of fire, swinging upward at a heavyweight from far below, completely convinced that he could control the narrative through internet commentary and radio freestyle threats. But the reality of the situation was always glaringly obvious to everyone else watching from the sidelines. There was a massive power imbalance that could never be ignored, no matter how loud the defense was. He was operating on a strictly traditional hip-hop level, while his opponent was operating on a global corporate scale as the executive producer of massive television franchises and international business portfolios. You cannot fight a multi-million-dollar fortress with pebbles. Yet he continued to throw them, dragging the actual star of the household into a messy, public conflict that she neither started nor needed for her brand. And as the years rolled on, that unresolved tension continued to simmer beneath the surface, turning every single interaction into a potential minefield for the family dynamic. Fast forward to the current climate of 2026, and the desperation to maintain relevance within that old rivalry reached an all-time high. He began alignment plays with other prominent figures who were actively trading shots with G-Unit, desperately hoping that some of that mainstream attention would drift back in his direction. He was dropping specific records, utilizing heavy sarcasm, and attempting to revive a name that the mainstream culture had quietly stopped searching for on the charts. He convinced himself that by standing on the front lines of an external war, He could establish himself as a major player in the modern landscape. But while he was outside busy searching for a battle to fight, the real chess match was already over. The queen of the household had already bypassed the petty internet noise, walked straight through the front gates of the empire, and secured the bag. She didn't just accept a business deal. She completely validated the exact throne her husband had spent years trying to dismantle. The public humiliation of seeing your spouse embrace the very corporate machinery you built your entire modern identity opposing is a blow that cannot be softened by any clever caption or defensive statement. According to individuals who were present within the camp when the flyer went live, the behind-the-scenes communication became a total disaster area within minutes. Phone calls were allegedly being made to management teams, voices were raised across private dressing rooms, and frantic attempts were made to have the location changed before the physical red carpet could even be unrolled. But the machinery was already in motion, the corporate sponsors had already signed off, and the timeline had already taken its screenshots. The realization that his public stance had been completely neutralized by his own family created an environment of pure fury, leading to an explosive confrontation that represents the absolute breaking point of a long, complicated history. The level of anger being reported from those close to the situation indicates that this is not a temporary disagreement that can be solved with a private conversation or a coordinated public relations statement. This is the moment where the personal vanity of an internet defender ran directly into the brick wall of high-stakes corporate reality. The explosive confrontation behind closed doors was only the beginning of a digital wildfire that no one could put out. As the clock ticked past midnight in New York City, the atmosphere inside the executive offices of the industry became incredibly tense. The leaked documents detailing this secret corporate alliance began filtering down from elite legal circles directly into the hands of independent media investigators, creating a completely unprecedented crisis. What we are looking at right now is not just a standard marriage dispute or a typical hip-hop disagreement over social media space. This is a multi-layered financial and personal exposure that reveals exactly how the most powerful figures in the culture operate when the cameras are turned off. The secret files suggest that while the public was being thoroughly distracted by internet sideshows, a massive transfer of influence was being negotiated in total silence. The leaked reports provide a highly detailed breakdown of what went down during these confidential Manhattan meetings over the past several months. According to anonymous sources who claim to have reviewed the secure communication logs, the level of spending tied to this hidden partnership is absolutely astronomical. We are talking about private transportation arrangements, luxury high-rise rentals booked under corporate shell companies, and specialized non-disclosure agreements designed specifically to keep the husband completely blind to the reality of the situation. The investigative findings point to a series of high-end business transactions that completely blur the line between professional alignment and deep personal connection. The documentation alleges that a prominent lifestyle brand connected to G-Unit quietly funneled massive resources into a new entertainment venture, completely controlled by the Bronx Empress. This wasn't a standard performance fee or a basic appearance contract. This was a full-scale corporate integration worth millions of dollars. To make matters even more scandalous, the anonymous reports detail secret weekend trips to luxury resorts outside the state, completely hidden behind the narrative of standard promotional tours and business development meetings. The level of luxury and corporate indulgence described in these leaked files has left the entire internet completely speechless. While one side of the household was out here performing at local venues and fighting for internet relevance, the other side was reportedly being flown around on private assets, enjoying the absolute highest tier of elite industry treatment. The public reaction to these incredibly specific leaks has been absolute pandemonium. The comment sections under every major hip-hop blog have literally turned into a battlefield of opinions, theories, and panic postings. Millions of fans who spent years defending the traditional narrative of the family are now experiencing a complete sense of betrayal as the time-stamped receipts continue to surface on the timeline. Every major social media platform is currently flooded with screenshots of the confidential paperwork, with users dissecting every single date, signature, and corporate clause. The narrative that was carefully maintained for over a decade has been completely demolished in a matter of hours. People are openly questioning how someone could carry out a corporate and personal alignment of this magnitude right under the nose of their lifelong partner, without a single leak slipping out until tonight. As the digital streets continue to burn, the focus has shifted heavily toward the imaginary statements and frantic damage control coming from both camps. Highly placed insiders claim that representatives for the Bronx Empress have been working around the clock, desperately calling tech platforms and corporate executives to try and suppress the spread of the leaked files. But the internet never sleeps, and once a document of this magnitude touches the feed, it becomes completely impossible to recall. The online community has completely split into factions, with some people praising the sheer strategic genius of the power play, while others are calling it the ultimate act of cultural and personal treason. The sarcasm and dark humor on the timeline have reached an all-time high, with users creating endless memes about throwing rocks at a fortress while your wife is inside holding the keys to the vault. The humiliation is being broadcast globally, and every single second that passes only amplifies the weight of the exposure. But just when you thought this scandalous breakdown could not possibly get any more chaotic, the situation took a massive turn through a third individual, who was never supposed to enter this specific equation tonight. While the internet was completely hyper-focused on the financial ties to G-Unit, a fresh wave of panic hit the feed from a completely different direction. Eazy the block captain decided that tonight was the absolute perfect time to completely upend the chessboard. Without warning, he stepped directly into the center of the storm by posting a highly affectionate tribute on his public platform, completely ignoring the massive corporate scandal currently unfolding around the birthday celebration. He explicitly labeled the Bronx Empress as his personal love in front of millions of witnesses, dropping a heart icon that felt like a direct spear through the remains of the family narrative. The timeline went completely silent for a fraction of a second before exploding into a brand new tier of controversy. For months, the streets had been running a very specific story claiming that the relationship between the battle rap star and the hip-hop queen had completely reached its end due to the intense pressure from the blogs and the ongoing interventions from the husband. The narrative was that they had quietly gone their separate ways to avoid further public damage. But tonight, that entire story was exposed as a complete fabrication designed to keep the public off the scent. The public-facing reality now shows that the connection is not only alive, but it is operating at the absolute highest level of confidence. And true to her calculated form, the Queen did not distance herself from his provocative statement. She quietly and deliberately shared it directly to her own massive audience, validating his claim in front of the entire world. This specific move represents a total, unmitigated disaster for the husband's public standing. Think about the psychological impact of this double-sided ambush. On one hand, you are watching your wife publicly embrace the multi-million-dollar nightlife empire of a man you have spent years attacking online. On the other hand, you are watching her publicly co-sign the affection of the very individual the streets have linked to her in the most embarrassing rumors of the year. It is a level of strategic isolation that seems completely designed to neutralize any possible response he could try to put together. According to sources close to the Brooklyn camp, the reaction to the battle rapper's public post was pure, unadulterated chaos. The phone lines between various management groups were completely jammed as people tried to figure out if this was a coordinated attack to completely destroy his reputation before the night ended. The behind-the-scenes leaks suggest that the husband's circle was completely unprepared for a coordinated strike of this magnitude. They genuinely believed that tonight would just be a standard high-profile birthday event that they could eventually spin in their favor through a slick radio interview or a defensive social media caption. They never anticipated that the secret files would drop at the exact same moment the romantic rumors were publicly validated. The sheer desperation within his camp has led to a series of frantic, emotional outbursts that are now leaking out through anonymous insiders who were present during the private meltdowns. We are talking about broken equipment, shouting matches that could be heard down the hallway of the studio, and a total breakdown of internal communication. The entire infrastructure that he built his modern career upon has been completely compromised by the reality of these dual alignments. He found himself completely trapped in a corner, unable to attack the corporate giant because of the massive financial implications, and unable to effectively silence the battle rap star because his own wife was the one providing the platform for the disrespect. It is a masterclass in industry manipulation, and the fallout is starting to look like a permanent shift in how power is distributed within New York hip-hop. The opportunistic personalities who usually surf these controversies for quick digital views are suddenly realizing that the situation is far too heavy for their standard commentary format. The standard jokes and casual gossip are completely inadequate for a scandal that involves nine-figure corporate deals, secret luxury travel, and the complete public dismantling of a legendary hip-hop marriage. The narrative is shifting so rapidly that even the most established outlets are struggling to keep up with the incoming stream of verified receipts. As the early morning light begins to hit the city, the true scope of this leaked affair is starting to dawn on the executive producers and major corporate sponsors who backed the PH Live launch. They are now realizing that what was supposed to be a standard celebrity birthday celebration has turned into the absolute epicenter of the most toxic, explosive, and widely watched cultural scandal of 2026. And the momentum generated by these leaks is heading directly toward a legal and financial breaking point that will leave absolutely no survivors in its wake. The momentum generated by these leaks has now reached the absolute highest tier of industry executive rooms, and the legal fallout is preparing to completely reshape the financial landscape of New York entertainment. What began as an explosive internet topic has officially crossed over into a massive corporate crisis that has major legal teams working through the early hours of the morning. According to highly placed corporate insiders, several major financial sponsors tied to the launch of PH Live are currently holding emergency meetings to evaluate the collateral damage of this massive public exposure. When you are dealing with a nine-figure infrastructure partnership, absolutely nothing can be left to chance, and the sudden insertion of a toxic, multi-layered family scandal is causing immense panic among the elite stakeholders. The rumors circulating through elite legal circles suggest that formal internal investigations have already been initiated to determine exactly how these highly confidential corporate agreements were leaked to independent media outlets. We are talking about potential multi-million-dollar breach of contract lawsuits that could completely alter the financial future of everyone involved in this hidden alliance. The paperwork currently being reviewed by corporate attorneys indicates that the financial ties between G-Unit's hospitality network and the Bronx Empress's new business ventures contain specific clauses regarding public conduct and brand security. If the legal discovery process proves that these private files were intentionally weaponized to create a public spectacle, the resulting litigation will be absolutely devastating. The hypothetical consequences extend far beyond standard courtroom battles and contractual penalties. Industry analysts are already predicting a massive wave of high-level resignations within the management teams that failed to contain this information before it hit the mainstream timeline. The sheer incompetence required to let a secret alliance of this magnitude leak on the exact night of a major public launch has completely destroyed executive confidence. We are also looking at a potential financial crisis for the independent platforms and promotional groups that tied their entire yearly revenue to the success of the Planet Hollywood rebranding. If major corporate sponsors decide to pull their funding to protect their public image from the radioactive fallout of this scandal, the entire New York nightlife infrastructure will face an immediate freeze. The public backlash is already bleeding into the commercial sector, with major retail brands and streaming networks reportedly pausing their upcoming negotiation sessions with both camps. No major corporation wants to insert their brand identity into the middle of an explosive marital collapse that involves allegations of corporate espionage, secret luxury travel, and public humiliation. The tension building across the digital space is practically suffocating as fans wait to see if the federal financial probes currently monitoring high-profile entertainment mergers will take an interest in these hidden corporate shell companies. When millions of dollars are being funneled through undisclosed lifestyle brands to fund private luxuries, it is only a matter of time before regulatory agencies begin demanding a full audit of the books. The husband's camp is currently facing the absolute worst-case scenario as they attempt to calculate the long-term survival of their public brand. The realization that they cannot launch a counterattack without triggering a massive legal retaliation from a nine-figure corporate giant has completely paralyzed their operational strategy. Their entire historical identity of being the unfiltered voice of the streets has been utterly neutralized by the binding clauses of a corporate document they never even saw coming. Anonymous sources within the Brooklyn studio circle report that the atmosphere has shifted from pure anger to a state of complete, silent despair. The realization that the queen of the household has completely outmaneuvered the entire team by aligning herself with the most powerful executive in the culture has left them completely devoid of options. Any aggressive public statement or diss record dropped at this point will only make them look incredibly desperate and hopelessly outmatched by the unfolding reality. Meanwhile, the ultimate mastermind of this entire scenario is reportedly sitting back inside his secure executive suite, completely unfazed by the digital warfare occurring beneath his throne. For Curtis Jackson, controversy is not a crisis. It is the absolute highest form of marketing currency. Every single tweet, every panic post, and every independent breakdown video is simply driving more traffic directly toward the grand opening of his new entertainment empire. He understands the psychological landscape of the modern consumer better than the tech executives who program the algorithms. By transforming a private personal alliance into the loudest corporate launch of 2026, he has successfully forced the entire entertainment industry to operate on his specific terms. You cannot boycott the venue because the venue is now the cultural center of the city, and you cannot ignore the star because her pen remains the sharpest weapon in the game. The opportunistic media personalities who tried to insert themselves into this narrative are now quietly deleting their previous commentary videos as the true weight of the legal situation becomes apparent. They are realizing that this is no longer a safe internet topic that can be milked for quick clicks and algorithmic engagement. This is a high-stakes corporate battlefield where real reputations are being permanently deleted and real fortunes are being reallocated in real time. The narrative has completely rewritten itself, and the only people taking permanent losses during this historic transition are the ones who believed they could play a grandmaster game of chess with a checkers mindset. The traditional structure of hip-hop fame has been entirely dismantled by the reality of corporate integration, proving that wealth and strategic silence will always triumph over internet volume. As the timeline braces for the inevitable arrival of the physical red carpet photographs, the final pieces of the old regime are being completely swept off the table like dust. The era of the loud, protective street narrative is officially over, replaced by the cold, calculating efficiency of elite business syndicates that operate entirely in the shadows until they are ready to claim total victory. The entire culture is now standing on the precipice of a brand new era, where personal loyalty is entirely secondary to global corporate reach. The strategic genius of the Bronx Empress will be studied by industry insiders for decades to come, regardless of the personal devastation left in the wake of her historic transition. She did not just survive the matrix of the music industry. She completely bought into the machinery that controls it. The final receipts have been uploaded, the non-disclosure agreements have been thoroughly compromised, and the ultimate architects of this cultural ambush are currently preparing to collect their historic dividends while the rest of the world watches in absolute awe. There is absolutely no turning back from this point, and the morning news cycle will officially confirm that the old hierarchy of New York hip-hop has been completely erased from the map. The chessboard has been completely cleared, and the old structure of New York hip-hop has officially been rewritten in broad daylight. This is no longer just a case of simple internet gossip or standard relationship drama. This is a masterclass in high-stakes corporate warfare, and the shockwave is going to vibrate across the entire entertainment industry for the rest of 2026. Now that the secret files have leaked and the dual alliances are out in the open, the true power dynamic cannot be denied. The Queen has made her move, the mastermind has secured his throne, and the spectators are left scrambling for answers. But this massive conversation is far from over, and the timeline is still actively processing the fallout. I want to hear your absolute unfiltered thoughts on this historic breakdown right now. Did the Bronx Empress execute the ultimate business play of her career? Or did this secret corporate alignment cross a line of personal respect that can never be fixed? Is there any possible way for the Brooklyn camp to recover from a public neutralization of this magnitude? Drop your predictions and your theories in the comments section below, because the algorithm is watching and this topic is not cooling down anytime soon. If you are ready for more deep investigative breakdowns, if you want the absolute receipts before they get scrubbed by high-level corporate attorneys, do not wait. Smash that like button right now, hit the subscribe button, and activate all notifications so you never miss a single update as this historic cultural ambush continues to unfold in real time.